Before I start the video, I would like to give a massive shout out to my Patreons who have been supporting my channel. If you would like to check out my Patreon and receive early access to some very exciting videos coming soon, then please click the link in the description below. Hello there, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Just a Nerd podcast. And today I am joined by a really wonderful guest. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Dominic G. Martin, and I do a lot of things within the Doctor Who community sphere. I make fan audios, I star in fan films, I have a quiz show, I do cosplays, I I am a producer of Big Finish, and I'm also a massive Doctor Who fan, in case you couldn't tell.
Well, there's certainly a lot of things we'll be touching upon from that introduction because you've got a lot of things that you're involved in, which certainly does generate a lot of discussion for this podcast. So let's start off with something a little bit simple. So you mentioned you're a Doctor Who fan. That's a safe assumption there. Um, when did you first become a fan of the show, and how were
So
you introduced to
so yes, the old story.
it?
I love recalling this because it's a very dear memory now. My mum introduced me to Doctor Who back
Oh.
around early 2005, and it wasn't on where you'd expect. It wasn't with Rose. It was actually with one of the last parts of Trial of a Time Lord. So
Oh.
my first experience with Doctor Who was seeing Colin Baker speak Daleks on Tyrant Cybermen speech for the first time because Mum decided to put it on because she loved Doctor Who as a kid
Yeah.
and decided to introduce me to it. And it left a very lasting memory. So when the series came back with Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper, then I probably sunk my teeth into it. And I really got into it. And it made me the person I am today.
So obviously, yeah, your first time was watching it with your mom for that part of Trial of the Time Lord. Before it aired in 2005 in March with Rose, did you watch any more episodes in between that, or was that just your first time before watching Rose?
Well, funnily enough, I didn't actually begin with Rose either. I
Oh,
really
okay.
missed that one on airing, and I went straight in with The End of the World. That was the
Okay.
first of the new series. And we went back and then caught up on Rose after that. And then that left a very good impact. And it motivated me to go back and binge watch a load of the classic Who episodes because in my local library they had classic Who DVDs. So I went out and got a hell of a load and just watched them through in the interim between Parting of the Ways and the Christmas Invasion.
No,
So it was a very productive summer and autumn.
yeah, I can imagine. And I am quite intrigued on what classic episodes you watched during that interim. Would you mind going into details if you remember which ones you watched?
The very first one I watched was Revelation of the Daleks.
Okay, that's the Colin Baker one, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was an odd choice because it's very violent,
Yeah.
uh, but I loved it. I really did enjoy it. I started off with the load of the Dalek ones, so I had Revelation, then I watched Remembrance, and then it wasn't until a lot later I watched Resurrection. I kind of went forward then a bit backwards, and then I watched Genesis. I think I went Revelation, then Remembrance, then Genesis, and then everything else a bit of a blur. But they were really fascinating stories to me as in my very, very young brain at the time, and they really piqued my interest. Like I was always into older science fiction anyway because I've been brought up on the original Star Trek series.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
that, Star Trek is my first original sci-fi love, and I hold it very dear. Then Doctor Who just came in and kicked it out of the sphere and took its place. For but no, yeah, the classic Who really did be a formulative part of my life in that period, because being able to just dip in and seeing all these different doctors and all their fancy outfits and being like, oh my god, this character he's insane, he's so cool, and it was just inspiring in a way, and seeing the stories and how well they were told, and how, I mean, how creative they were with the little budget that they had. I mean, I was only like, when I started watching it, I was about 11, turning 12.
Yeah.
So I was in that very prime age for just absorbing it all.
Yeah.
And nah, just, it really, really got my creative juices flowing.
No, that sounds really cool. And from all the people I've spoken to on the podcast, I feel like you've got a little bit of a unique viewing experience. You started off with the Trial of Time Lord that your mom showed you, then you continued with Series 1. Did this have an impact on how you first experienced regeneration? Because obviously at the end, Eccleston regenerated into David Tennant. Were you as surprised as a completely new viewer, or were you somewhat prepared?
Nah, as prepared. I knew it was coming. I knew the announcement and everything, and already had an experience of seeing different doctors beforehand.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so let's go. Uh, I mean, I loved Chris Eccleston's performance. I loved him. I loved Nine, and it was sad to see him go. But equally so, is exceptionally exciting to see David Tennant
Yeah.
take over. I mean, one of my memories in that interim as well, as my mum took me to see Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire,
Yeah.
which same year, and she turned to me when Barty Crouch Jr. was on screen, just like, "That's the new Doctor," and I was like, "I know."
Oh no,
Those,
that's really cool. But again, obviously, because of you watching a lot of Classic Who as well during that interim, um, when it came to the Christmas invasion and you were watching a new Doctor for the first time, were you as nervous as other fans were, or were you just so excited because the show's getting another lease of life?
yeah, I was excited. I wasn't nervous at all. I didn't have any reason to be nervous. I was just like, cool, it's a new guy taking on the role. And I'd read like interviews of him and everything, the Doctor Who magazine and all that. And I was so hyped to see him because David Tennant seemed a bit of a cool guy.
Yeah,
And he's still quite a cool guy as well.
oh,
Uh,
truly.
and you just had this energy to him. And of course, there was the little Children in Need mini-sode as well, Born Again, that we ended up watching as well. And yeah, it was just a case of me being like, "Hey, let's go." I mean, I don't think I've ever been nervous before a new Doctor, and it's always stuck with me that I don't get nervous, I don't get apprehensive. I just like, let's go, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I feel like I share that as well. Even when we had our first female doctor announced, I was just like, brilliant, about time. And I feel like when there's change, especially like in life, I don't really get nervous. I just get excited because you just never know what's around the corner. And I feel like being a Doctor Who fan, that also kind of prepares you for, several changes because life never really, stays the same. There's always changes, positive or negative. But the main point is, hey, we're all here and we're here to watch Doctor Who, amongst many other things in life. But you've watched a lot of episodes, and this next question I'm going to be asking for Classic and New Who. What's your favourite episode from each of those respective eras, Classic and New Who, and why?
Bloody hell. Okay. I'm gonna say for classic, Caves of Androzani, because I think that is still the best regeneration story. It's my favorite, and I know it's a basic answer, but I don't care. I love it. Um, Davison just goes out on such a high, and Nicola Bryant is very phenomenal as always, and the whole grim feeling of the story and just seeing the Doctor's desperation to save her is just such, it's so doctory. It's the definition of the character of the Doctor. He's selfless, he's amazing, and he does all these sorts of things. He's just sacrificed himself to meet a girl who he's just met.
Yeah.
And that is just him to a T. That is, of course, not including all the Big Finish audios. Of course, those came later, so
Yeah.
going on the original continuity. You get the idea.
Yeah. And then for Modern Who, what would you say is your favourite episode?
That's a tougher question. There's loads of Modern Who that I just adore. I mean, I love World Enough and Time the Doctor Falls. magnificent two-parter, and again, it's the Doctor at his best. There's Heaven Sent as well. Again, I love it to pieces. Capaldi holds a very special place in my heart. Then there's Parting of the Ways and Bad Wolf. I mean, I said that the wrong way around, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Those two episodes were just outstanding and just magical to me as a kid. It's difficult to just put a single finger on one episode because all of them can be just so incredible for such different reasons. I know that applies to Classic Who as well, but I'd say due to growing up with New Who, my emotion connects towards that as it's all gone on, seeing it in real time. It's a bit harder to choose my favorite child.
No, that's completely fair. And you have listed some fantastic examples there, especially with the Capaldi era as well, which again, I feel like holds, even though David Tennant has always been my favorite Doctor, the whole Capaldi era, you know, watching him from Series 8 starting off as a more grumpier incarnation, very, very dark as well, to a more light-hearted Series 10, well, until it ended, you know, with the whole Cyberman story. But you know, I feel like watching Capaldi on screen and seeing his incarnation grow, it was certainly a unique experience, and getting such an amazing actor as well, performing episodes like Heaven Sent, and then obviously World Enough Time and The Doctor Falls was perfect. And episodes like that as well, especially Heaven Sent, such like unique ideas, you know, having just mainly the Doctor just for one episode, where it's, you know, told through his perspective, I feel like is such a unique thing. And it also must be you know, you played the Doctor as well in DW2012, which I'll touch upon in a bit, but just like imagine yourself doing a script like that. Obviously that's quite challenging. And I'm going to throw in a question here now. If you had to do an episode like that, how would you prepare for it?
Oh, well, firstly, I would lavish the opportunity. I would love to do something like that because it'd be a real test of the metal, and I love challenges. I mean, the amount of times I've had to learn big paragraphs in about 30 seconds, quite numerous. So I would love to be able to give that a go. I to prepare for it, I would just meticulously read the script over and over, and then just play it all in my mind and just try and immerse myself into it, and just really probably just go for it, because that's what Capaldi did. He went for it and he tore it up in the best possible way. It was amazing. It's just amazing to watch. And I think for any actor, the opportunity to just lead the episode almost by yourself is a very dangerous opportunity, but it's high risk and it's high reward.
Yeah, well and truly, because obviously, you know, you're not surrounded by, you know, fellow actors and stuff. You're literally bouncing off yourself. You know, you're literally projecting yourself. And yeah, there might be the odd monster in the episode, but a non-speaking monster as well. You just, you know, it is really a test of your abilities. But it is nice to know that you'd certainly be up for it. And when I started watching DW2012, I could actually imagine your Doctor, even though back then it was only How Time Flies that had been released. I could have imagined your incarnation doing something similar, you know, kind of going off that. So whoever knows what the future holds, you know, you could be in a similar situation in terms of an episode. But let's move on to the next section. The next section I'd like to for us to talk about is you've done a lot of cosplaying. You've done, you know, you've cosplayed as a lot of Doctors, and you know, a lot of variants of Doctor's costumes as well, especially with Shooty, which I'll be getting onto in a second. But overall, what's been your favorite cosplay to wear at a convention?
Season 18, Fourth Doctor.
Really?
Yeah, that's like my big showpiece cosplay because of the scarf. The scarf, I knitted it all by myself, so I am extremely proud of it. My mum taught me to knit many years ago. One of the first things she did was like knit a Tom Baker scarf for me. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to knit one too. So I wanted to knit the season 18, the burgundy one, and he helped me along. And then we did one version, which wasn't quite right. And then she just took the training wheels off and let me do a second version. and it turned out perfectly. And I'm like, thanks, Mom. So that one holds a special place in my heart because of the obviously the influence from my mum, and just the fact that I knitted an 18-foot scarf, and I'm very proud of that. So
No,
it's,
as you should be, because I can imagine it's not an easy feat to do, but well done for doing it. And
and I know the pain of dropping a stitch when you realize you've done a few rows and you have to correct yourself. It gets very it's not for the faint of heart or the lowest highest of blood pressures.
Yeah, I can imagine, but well done for doing it because obviously, you were able to create your favorite cosplay by doing so. And yeah, you've been in the convention circuit as well for a while. You've gone to various conventions, across the country. You also did Gallifrey One as well, didn't you? If I remember
Yes,
correctly. What was that like going to Gallifrey One? I've never been, so I'll be curious to know what it was like.
it was an amazing experience. But so like obviously I was there in my capacity as a Big Finish producer, so they
Yeah.
flew me out there, and I'm incredibly grateful to Jason and everyone for the Jason Hay Gallery and everyone for the opportunity. Um, it was just insane. Gallery One is insane. It is so it the atmosphere is just incredible. The people are so lovely. They are just wonderful people. Like American Doctor Who fans are just so charismatic. It's just it's crazy and like I mean again, there's no disturbance against British Doctor Who fans, obviously, but they take it to a new level. I mean, you should see the parties that they have as well, and all the events they have. It's we need something like that in the UK. We need a Gallifrey One in the UK to really bring like the community spirit out there. So I know it
Yeah.
can be a like uh we don't really have like a big Doctor Who convention here. We have loads of wonderful small ones,
Yeah.
but I feel like something like Galley One uh, is just is just an experience that you need to experience. Oh, man, just trying to think back on it, and it's just it was ridiculous. It's you gotta go, but the thing is, I wouldn't have been able to get out there if it wasn't for Big Finish.
Yeah.
So it is a very difficult thing to get there. And but I really like if you ever get the opportunity, 100% recommend it. But that's why we need something like that in the UK to make it accessible for everyone
Yeah.
because it's so many great events. They do so much and
I know.
shows. It's just we need something like that.
Yeah, we really do. And as well, I feel like obviously going there, a different country as well, and then you're
Mm.
seeing so many Doctor Who fans. Did it did it seem like a surprise that there was so many, passionate Doctor Who fans in America, or were you kind of like, okay, I was expecting that, or were you blown away?
I would mentally prepared myself, but it still surpassed my expectations. Like I've been doing cons for over a decade now, and you're used to how people are in Doctor Who, and you're used to meeting like Doctor Who cosplayers, and it's always great to see new faces on the circuit. But then you're suddenly bombarded with a load of new faces at once, and you're like, oh. It is overwhelming in the best possible way, and it is just to just trying to introduce yourself to so many people all at once, and you're just struggling in the again in the best possible way. It's an experience that I will never forget. And being able to meet people that I had spoken to online for a long time, that was just ridiculous. Like, yeah, I would name names, but I would be here forever. But no, it is something about it. It's just, yeah, magical is the word I want to say. Magical.
No, it certainly seems it, and I've especially when Gallifrey One has been happening, I've always seen clips on Twitter and seen loads of photos, and everyone really looks like they're enjoying themselves. And I do hope to go there one year because it does seem truly magical, as you say. But you did mention that you went there with Big Finish. And if memory recalls, you were part of a panel there as well.
Yes.
What was it like doing a panel? Was it nerve-wracking or did you feel comfortable?
I was on a panel with fellow Big Finish colleagues, and I was like bricking it the entire time. I was on two panels actually.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I'm just incredibly honored to be there and just like be amongst people that I had looked up to for so long, been watching or listening to their stuff for so long. And there I am, my butt on the other side of the sofa while they got Tim Trelaw on the other side of me. I'm just like, oh my God. I was just like, it's insane. I got Jason Haig-Ellery just over there. I'm just like, oh my God. And just, it was crazy to me. I but wonderful at the same time. Like, it's probably something that will never happen to me again. So it's something that I hold very dear to me, because never take anything like that for granted, because it's a special moment. It's a very special moment in my life. And it really gave me it gave me more confidence in like seeing all the people just enjoying what we had to say, and then like being part of a panel from the other side, not a viewer but actually someone contributing to the conversation. It was just, words fail me. But yeah. Oh God, I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
Crazy.
it's okay. No, it sounds amazing from what you're saying about being on a panel. I've done one myself, back at MCM, but the
Yeah,
fact you were doing it in like another country, you were there with Big Finish, and you're obviously talking about Doctor Who, and you're a producer for Big Finish as
yeah.
well.
Don't
That
get me wrong,
is
it'd be intimidating.
I can imagine that is, such like an incredible experience to have. And like as you said, you never know when you're going to get another experience of that. So the fact you were just living there in the moment and stuff, it is certainly wonderful to hear. And getting back onto the cosplay side of things, we did briefly mention that you've done some cosplaying already as Shooty. Well, his many costumes already. What's been your favorite one to cosplay as, and what's your favorite one that you're looking forward to seeing on screen?
A, the leather outfit, the brown long coat.
Yes.
B, the leather outfit, the brown long coat.
Yeah.
I love that outfit so much. It looks amazing. He looks so hot in it.
Yeah,
It's
he
just,
does.
it's mad that is like, that is a real Doctor's costume to me. That is for me going to be his definitive look. I
Yeah.
don't know how it's going to be used for. By God, I hope it's used in more than one episode. But he just suits it to a T. It's mental. And that there's the coat, the zip up jumper, all the different colors and the stripes and the trousers. It's a color coordination made in heaven, and I adore it. That is my favorite costume of his so far. I mean, the other ones I love as well. I mean, they're very different. It's like we've got multiple different Doctor's costumes at once. Um, but I would say that if I, below the leather outfit, I would say my other favorite would be the blue suit. I would say the blue suit.
From the
Because,
60s episodes of the film. Yeah.
the 60s episode, and he looks fantastic with his afro. That's going to be fun to watch. I don't know the context of that, aside from it being in the 60s, and potentially that's the one with Jinx Monsoon, I think,
Yeah, I
maybe.
believe so, yeah.
So it's going to be maybe a musical. Could work. I want it to be.
I would love to see a musical Doctor Who episode. That would be amazing.
Just me. Like, watching the Strange New Worlds episode, Subspace Rhapsody, really looks like, yeah, this can work. This can work for Doctor Who. This can properly work for Doctor Who, because you explain in the plot and it just happens and it flows like clockwork. It can work.
And
I
as
would.
and as well, it would be a unique episode format as well. We've had so many different types of episodes over the years, so a musical episode would certainly be the cherry on top for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know there was a Big Finish one, Doctor Who and the Pirates, I believe. That was a musical based audio. So bring it to live action. Do something like that in live action. I think
That
it would go down. It would probably end up being very divisive, but at the same time, it would be a good adventure.
I feel like those are the best kinds of Doctor episodes that get people talking though. I
Yeah,
don't know how you feel about that, but yeah, I feel like the more diverse they are, obviously, because they're more, they're more daring, they're more willing to, generate conversation and get people talking, which I feel we need more of.
I agree. I like it when Doctor Who is experimental. Like an episode that I do really enjoy, and I'll probably get a few people booing at the screen, but I enjoy Sleep No More. I enjoy,
Same here.
yeah, I enjoy that it tried to be experimental. It played with the format a lot, and I thought it's just a fascinating episode. It's so haunting to watch, and I really like that about it. It's definitely, I think it's one of my one of the most underrated episodes of Modern Who, I'd say. And I mean, I know it's widely panned, and I know a lot of people really don't like it, but I think it defies expectations a bit, and I think there is a lot to it. If you give it a second watch or something, I think you might find something that you may enjoy a lot more out of it. Because once you know how it's going, what's coming, what's happening, then you can examine the finer details.
Yeah, well and truly. And also, it is one of the rare instances where the Doctor doesn't really win and
Yeah.
he doesn't really know what's going on.
No, no, no. He just
And
escaped with his life.
and there's no follow-up as well. I know there was a planned one, but the fact it never happened and we still got somewhat of a complete story, there weren't
Yeah,
any, plot holes. I feel like it just worked. It
I,
just did.
I really I love the ending. It's like I love Inside Number Nine and League of Gentlemen. So Reece Shearsmith is someone who I think is a fantastic actor, and he really sold that ending. He sold his performance the whole way through. Um, and it's that ending where the Doctor just escapes and is just like just going to the TARDIS, getting Clara and everything. It's terrifying because this is the Doctor just about escaping. He was gonna lose.
It is honestly such a unique episode, which I wouldn't mind something similar to that again. Obviously, maybe something
Mm.
slightly different to found footage, but episodes where the Doctor doesn't win shows that traveling with the Doctor isn't always as safe as it is made out to be, which I feel like would be interesting to see happen with Shooty and Billy Gibson as well, with their dynamic, which we haven't seen on screen, obviously, but getting reminded that adventures with the Doctor aren't always, the um, safe adventures that we expect.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, are they ever really safe?
Exactly, because whilst running down corridors does seem fun, we might end up tripping over a few Daleks on the way and potentially, getting wiped from existence, or
Just or maybe tripping over a brick.
yeah, and then that's how we end up regenerating. Who knows? But let's wrap up the convention side of this podcast by simply asking, what's been your favorite convention experience and why?
I can only say Gallifrey One.
Is it still Gallifrey one?
Yes, Gallifrey One is my favorite experience at a convention overall. It was just magical, and it is definitely lightning in a bottle. No, I don't think I'll ever experience anything like that again. So I'm embracing it with everything that it's worth.
No,
So
that
yeah,
is completely fair. And again, from what I've seen online and from how you've described it, Dom, as well, it does seem like a truly magical experience because not only is it a big Doctor Who con in America, but it really does show how much of an international audience Doctor Who has, which you
yeah,
wouldn't necessarily assume because of, it's a BBC sci-fi show that airs yearly,
yeah,
but the fact it's got such a huge following overseas, and it is going to be getting a bigger one as well with
yeah.
Disney Plus. How do you feel about Doctor Who airing on Disney Plus?
I mean, it doesn't really bother me really. If it makes it easier for people to watch it internationally, then I think that can only be a good thing.
Yeah,
Make the show more well known and more mainstream outside of the UK. then I think that will be fantastic for the longevity of the show. Because I know it previously aired in BBC America in the US, but that
Yeah.
was a fairly niche channel, if I recall correctly. I don't know where else it aired. I'm sure somebody in the comments can probably clarify where Doctor Who aired in America because I'm not 100% certain. Uh, but I think having it on something like Disney Plus will be a lot bigger. It will, because that's where like you get all the Star Wars shows there. You get like your Kenobi's, Clone Wars, and Ahsoka's next, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
or and all the Mandalorian, etc. All that. It is a perfect place for Doctor Who to be airing, and I really think it'll benefit the show in the long term.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I do fully agree with you. Doctor Who being on a more accessible platform internationally can only be a good thing.
Yeah,
But also, Disney have it's been confirmed that they are also funding the show as well and having some creative input. I think it's like only minimal though.
be
At least
careful.
for Series 14. How do you feel about that? And are you concerned that that we could be getting like loads of spin-offs or like getting a cinematic universe? How do you feel about that?
The thing is, I trust Russell T Davis
Yeah,
because of his prior work on the show, and the thing is, Doctor Who basically had a small televisual universe of its own back from like 2005 onwards because of all the spin-offs that it had when it was at its peak,
yeah,
in terms of like having multiple shows running at once, because you had Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures. It just made this whole collection of adventures going on elsewhere in the Doctor Who universe. And coupled with that, you have Big Finish on the audio side, with its own spin-offs. So I mean, even there with Big Finish alone, you have a audio universe that is huge. So I think Doctor Who has always had this aspect of a cinematic universe, as it were. It's always had a lot of energy to go into that sort of thing. And I think that Doctor Who is one of those IPs and properties that would actually make it work to a fascinatingly good degree, because it's already been demonstrated that it can work. And I don't see why it can't work again. It just depends on what those spin offs would be, because they live and die by what they are. And yeah, I mean, I've no idea what could possibly be happening, but there are rumors going about, and who knows what could be happening underneath the covers until it's actually announced. So I just hope we get something that will be cool and world building and character developing like Tortured and Sarah Jane Adventures were.
yeah. That's completely understandable because yeah, a lot of the plans for the new era we've been teased with stuff, and obviously yeah, there's loads of rumors going around about spin-offs and stuff like that. But as you pointed out, Russell T Davis has done an amazing work on Doctor Who in the past, and obviously he is a big fan of the show as well, and he has been supporting it even when he left and Moffat took over and when Chibnall took over. He has always stayed passionate and faithful to the franchise. So the fact that he's coming back to write for the show and to steer it once again, I do have a lot of faith in RTD. And from what I've seen online, a lot of people do as well, which is really cool to see because I love seeing positivity in the community and it can only be a good thing. So in RTD, we trust. But let's move on to something a little bit interesting about yourself. So you are currently playing the Purple Doctor for DW2012, I believe.
That
Now,
I am. Yes.
now tell me, how did that come about?
Oh my goodness. Well, so back in the old days of 2014, I met Luke at MCM Birmingham and we became friends, and he asked me if I'd like to play the Doctor after him. So it was a very cut and dry thing. He believed that I had sort of a doctory energy about me. And so I jumped at the chance naturally. And then about 3 years later, I shot my first scene. And then 1 year later, I shot the regeneration. And then in that same year, I shot my first episode, for the original version of the first episode. And it's been a whirlwind of a journey since then. So yeah, it's been crazy, to say the least. And to think that, I mean, 9 years ago I'd agreed to take the role, and now I've come to the end of filming the series. It's weird to think about. It's mad that it's like my entire life is built towards that moment, as now just came and went. So
Yeah, I mean, a lot can happen in 9 years. Your life, I imagine, has changed a lot. But from that moment, from filming your first scene chronologically from the regeneration, how did it feel to be the Doctor for the first time?
bloody radical.
That's completely fair.
Yeah. Oh man, I love playing him. He holds a special place in my heart. He is everything that I wish I could be turned up to 11. And I try to put that in the performance as much as I can, because I really do love Purple. Playing Purple just it really is means the world to me. And the fact he's been so beloved by fans of the show means an incredible amount to me. And he's always going to be with me no matter what happens. And like 20 years down the line, I will probably be like, eh, I'll do something with him. Gonna come back. What are we going to do? Anniversary special? Um, is It's been a joy to play this character and to work with Luke and Meg and Ben and James and yourself, and Docker, and everyone that has even just been part of the series, even for a brief moment. It's just been it's just been crazy. And I just hope that everybody enjoys the episodes that are coming out, because the best really is yet to come. And I mean that. It's
Yeah, I can
the
back
next
that up as well. It's very exciting.
the next episode is an amazing one, and the episodes after that, I don't think anybody is quite prepared for what they're going to see.
Yeah, well and truly. And something I've noticed as well, especially from filming days with yourself, is how much energy your incarnation has, and how well known you are on screen. Like your presence is certainly like gravitating. Like you can feel the Doctor energy. So Luke was certainly right. You do have that Doctor energy, and I am curious when it came to like preparing for how your incarnation was going to play out. Did you have any inspirations? Like what incarnations of the Doctor did you look at?
I didn't look at incarnations of the Doctor specifically. I wanted to try and draw on my own, because obviously I'd watched Doctor Who so much, it was inevitable that I was going to absorb like Doctory stuff. So being able to pour it into something was almost by default, really. So it became instinctive. There we go. I didn't draw on anybody specific, but I tried to use like outside Doctor Who inspirations. Like one of my inspirations for the role would be Yamayugi from Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay.
He has that sort of badassery to him that I try to at least have a little bit. There's this cool, calm, serious nature to him, and being able to use his jacket as a cape. And I really just try to borrow bits of that. And then there's other anime characters like Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop, who has, again, it's a cool exterior. So in times where Purple is like trying to be in control of the situation, then that sort of side comes out. And then it just all sorts of little things I've just picked up over the years, just distilling them into a form of playing the character and just hoping that it goes down well. Yeah, I just tried to make him as unique as I could, because I didn't want to like be seen as copying a doctor's performance, because that's the last thing I want to do as an actor. I want to try and give a portrayal that is as unique as I can make it.
Yeah.
So that's because, as well as being the Doctor, it is an acting role to me, and I want to give it my best shot. So he is a unique one, but at the same time, it's just nice to play the Doctor, isn't it?
It certainly does seem it as well. And I remember from when I first watched How Time Flies, I ended up watching that just before the first lockdown. I was saying this to Luke and Meg yesterday that why, well, it was my rediscovery of DW2012 because I remember watching For the Doctor when it first aired because I felt like it was being advertised everywhere on YouTube. So I ended up watching it and I loved it. And then when I rediscovered the Series 5 opener and watching all that content during lockdown, it kind of like, yeah, it saved me in a way because I was, I wasn't watching, new Doctor Who because we just had Series 12 and then there's a lack of TV content because, the world essentially stopped. And I've got to say thank you to you guys for over the years for making some amazing content because honestly, DW2012 is, it's an amazing production. And, seeing like you guys, work hard, especially like, doing some, location shooting. And you guys have got some tough scripts sometimes, but you do certainly put your work in and it is very
And
evident.
that's the thing, you got to give credit where credit is due. I mean, Luke does a shed load of stuff.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very impressive. He does like the editing and the writing and sourcing locations and everything like that for the series, and it is genuinely impressive.
Yeah.
Just look at it from an objective standpoint, it is impressive
It
the
is,
amount
yeah.
put into to make this work. And yeah, you gotta give credit where credit's due. So hats off to Luke, because the series wouldn't be anywhere near as glossy as it is, and how it's improved over the years since those early days in 2013. Is just gone from strength to strength. And apologies for the car out there.
That's all right.
Yeah, he's really pushed the boat out, and it's been an honor to be along for the ride.
No, and I also share that as well. The fact I was able to get a role as well and join you all for the 60th specials is certainly, something that doesn't happen every day. But I am glad to be going from a fan, which I still am, but also, experiencing it from the other side of the screen as well. Is certainly a cool feeling. But to wrap up, talking about DW2012, with Series 5 nearing its conclusion on screen, you've already wrapped and all that stuff. But how do you feel about the journey that your Doctor has been on during that series?
He's been on an incredibly rough journey. He has suffered so many setbacks, but he's overcome them all at once. And the thing is, the universe keeps on trying to throw stuff at him, but it's up to him to combat it. And with a bit of help from Meg and Tommy, it's just going to be. The thing is, I can't say too much because the biggest part of the journey is about to happen. So ask me that again when the series is fully out, and then I'll be able to tell you all the secrets.
Oh, I look forward to that. But also, as well, I just wanted to ask from everything that's out there so far, just to avoid spoilers, but from the episodes that are out there, what's been your favorite moment that your Doctor has partaken in?
Oh, good question. The thing is, I love taking on the time flies. I love the big confrontation scene with the time flies in episode 1. That was just the new version of episode 1, I should say, because that felt like a proper defining Doctor moment. And then there's also, I mean, I love the most hated man on earth. That entire episode is just sublime, and I'm really proud of how my Doctor is in that episode. And of course, into the time loop, taking on the clockwork droid again, very so fun. The Slovene as well, Vengeance. and then the movement in summer of '82, which didn't go quite so well, but at the same time, um, yeah, no, again, best is yet to come. Best is yet to come.
Again, we will probably talk about that another time, but I've got to say I have enjoyed the journey that your doctor has been on, and I am certainly looking forward to what happens in the future with regards to the Purple Doctor. But I'm sure he's in safe hands, and that the Purple Doctor will end up saving the day with whatever is to come. But
Happens.
yeah, we shall see what happens. But let's move on. We briefly spoke earlier about Big Finish, and you've become a Big Finish producer. So, if you don't mind explaining, how did that happen?
So it was a very surreal day for me. Just randomly out of the blue, I got an email from David Richardson. They'd asked me to send in bits of my work. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I've been contacted about a Big Finish. Oh God. And then I got asked if I'd like to be a trainee producer with them. And that was on the Peloton box set.
Oh, amazing.
I was like, holy hell. I need to obviously, but um, and then after that, I got to sit in on all these recordings and introduce myself to like big people in Big Finish, like obviously Mr. Briggs. Oh, I was, it felt insane. It's just like, how the hell did it get from this to that? I'm just like, ah! But no, it was a spectacular experience, and it has continued to be a great experience to work for Big Finish as a producer. And the thing is, it's like, oh, being able to be obviously, I can't speak too much about this, but it filled a dream of mine, which a dream that had only really come about in 2020. But to be able to work with Joe Martin on the Fugitive Doctor Adventures, dream come true. I can't say anything more about that, but
No, that
it's
is. I
iconic.
completely understand why you can't, but I imagine because you've, well, with cosplaying as well. Um, I remember she saw the cosplay photo that you did as the Fugitive Doctor.
Yeah,
I can imagine going from that to actually working with the Doctor herself. That is, that's a journey and a half in itself.
really is. It really, really is. And yeah, it's just the best. So I thank Big Finish for giving me this opportunity, these opportunities, and it's just I'm forever going to be extraordinarily grateful.
That is really lovely to hear. And again, just the fact that you've gone from being a fan of the show to creating your own content and your own video and audio content on YouTube to being a part DW2012 to being the Purple Doctor, your own incarnation that you've channeled your own energy to and really knocked it out of the park. And then you're also a producer for Big Finish. Like you've done a lot, and it is really cool to see. And honestly, man, I'm proud of you, and I'm sure a lot of people in the community are as well.
I
So
really appreciate that. Thank you. It's been a long journey, but as always, in the words of the great Sean Wallace of the Chase, never take anything for granted because you never know when it could come crashing down. And I always just pinch myself every day because these things came together, and you just got to be grateful that I've been given these opportunities. That I know that in a sense I am privileged with them because not everyone gets to do the things that I have done. And I just am so humbled that of all people, have been given the opportunity. And I would just be, yeah, I'm just grateful. And it's one of those things that you never know quite how to react and how life can sometimes treat you. Because don't get me wrong, life can really kick you in the teeth, but
yeah,
sometimes you're an olive branch and you're like, oh well, thank you. And it's been amazing. It's been amazing in this capacity. Yeah.
no, that is lovely to hear. And before we get onto the audience questions, there's a debate question. So, just to
Oh,
give you a rundown of this. So, for each guest that I've had on the podcast so far, I've given them a debate question. And at the end of the podcast's current season, the audience members will be marking you out of 10. And your question, if successful and beating all the other guests, you will win a £50 Amazon voucher. So let's get on to the question. So, with Series 14 on the horizon, do you think there should be a couple of returning monsters included in the series, or should it be made up of completely new monsters?
I think they should have one returning monster. I
Okay.
would one. I think because I want Shooty's first series to be full of exciting new things, because we've already seen, like, this isn't like series one. This
Yeah.
isn't like Christopher Eccleston series where they're reintroducing all these elements back in. This is a new era, but with a Doctor that we've already had a load of things returning.
Yeah.
We've come off the back of Power of the Doctor, which had the Daleks and Cybermen and the Master.
Yeah.
Let's fresh for series 14. Let's have a series of fresh things, but we have that one returnee that shows that, this is still the Doctor and he still knows how to deal with things. He is still, I can, fully capable of defeating, say, the Daleks or the Cybermen, whoever that they decide to throw at him. Whether it be the Master one, although I hope the Master doesn't show up quite so soon. I think we need a bit of time.
Yeah.
I just want Shooty to be able to have his own set of iconic enemies, iconic threats. Like Series 11, I know that can be divisive, but that did a very bold and risky thing by having it being all original threats and villains.
Yeah.
I think that Shooty could definitely benefit from that, but just have that one returnee that just keeps the audience like,
Out of all of the rogues gallery that the Doctor has had over the years, and you mentioned about one villain. Obviously, I'm putting you down to a hard task here, but out of all of those villains, which one would you have for that one returning monster, and why?
I would say the Daleks. It's
The
got to be the Daleks.
Daleks. Yeah.
Because the Daleks are as iconic as Doctor Who itself, and they are the villain that probably tests a Doctor's mettle. And I would say a Shooty Dalek story could be absolutely amazing, because once we'll get to know his Doctor, we'll get to know it, we'll get to know how he deals with things. So when we have the measure of his character, seeing him against his mortal enemy will be fire.
It certainly would be, and obviously with the Daleks as well.
Mm.
Would you like to see a redesign? Because we've been stuck with the bronze Daleks now for a while. We did have the brief redesign with the Paradigm Daleks, but then they were kind of shuffled out, and then the bronze ones became the permanent design. We've had the reconnaissance Daleks briefly popping up, but it's mainly been the bronze one. So, would you like to see a permanent redesign with the new era?
I think we need one. I think we need that. We need that effect that the bronze Daleks had in 2005 again.
Yeah.
We need something to have that impact, because that design, I think the design of the bronze Daleks is timeless in and itself. But it just needs a slight tweak at this point. I think they just need to be made a bit more intimidating, I think, because they are war death machines.
Yeah.
Basically. And the bronze ones convey that very well, but we've seen them for a long time now. And I think they just need that something to just make them that bit fresher, that bit more terrifying. They give them some new abilities or new weaponry or something like that. I think they just need that extra tweak or something that can just make them a bit more horrific.
Yeah.
Like, they've been doing a lot of redesigns of the Cybermen, but I think the Daleks they don't need anything extensive. They don't need anything as big as the Paradigm was. But I just think they just need a little something. I'm not entirely sure what that something could be, but maybe it could just be a different color scheme, because we have been stuck with the bronzes for a long time. Silver, gunmetal gray. anything like that. I'd love to see modern Daleks in gunmetal grey.
That would certainly be a treat as well. Even like you said, something so simplistic would be really cool to see. To just freshen up their appearance on screen. It would certainly make them stick out a bit more as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't over texture them. Don't go like full MCU or super design stuff.
Yeah.
Just want them to be recognizably the Daleks in their iconic form, but just beefed up a little.
Yeah, certainly. And again, from the just to give my opinion on your answer here, I think is amazing, and it is something that I feel like the show needs because obviously, well, to be fair, actually, come to think of it, from the Haunting of Villa Diodati, from the end of Series 12, and then we had Revolution of the Daleks, Flux, and then the specials.
Oh yeah,
We've had a lot of returning monsters. Yeah, we've had Swarm in his ear and a few other new monsters sprinkled across. But saying if the 60th has the Celestial Toymaker and then, well, obviously Beat the Meep and the Wrath Warriors, we've had a lot of returning monsters, which,
yeah,
it'd be nice to get something completely new, which I think would be cool.
yeah. I agree. I think it needs that fresh touch. I mean, I respect the 60th specials for bringing back things that are from either expanded media or the 60s.
Yeah,
That's more a territory that hasn't really been touched that much on.
yeah.
That's prime for the taking. But yeah, fresh stuff for series 14 would be fantastic, and then just have that bit at the end where you're just like, oh god, it's them. Just get that horror feeling back.
Do you think then, sorry, just to make this a part of the question as well, for the Daleks, do you think they should be in just a standalone episode, just randomly appearing in the series, or should they be saved for the finale, which may or may not be a two-parter?
I think there's pros and cons to both. Well, actually, no, there's only really pros. I think they have them in standalone and make them a sudden villain.
Yeah.
Make them like my one of my best friends. Said that the Daleks hijacking a story is such a really cool concept, and I'll just say it's Will, my best friend Will, aka Channel Pup. He decided that like the Daleks hijacking story because we were inspired by what were we watching? Yeah, Doomsday, something like that. Because that's a Cyberman story, but suddenly, bam, that becomes a Dalek story, and Daleks and Cyberman story. But the Daleks are very much the main threat. So I think a story that starts off like a normal Doctor Who story, then suddenly, holy hell, unexpected Daleks. I think that has a lot of potential because Dalek appearances these days can be very telegraphed, and they're involved.
Yeah.
But having them make them mysterious again, make them operate from behind the scenes. Because that was one of my favorite things about Bad Wolf Passing the Ways. They were in the shadows, and then they were brung out. That's what I like about the Daleks, is that they are cunning. They're not just worried. They're not just the exterminate like massacres. They are cunning villains. They are smart. They are scheming, and they are incredibly menacing. And they're not just thoughtless killers. They are what am I trying to say? Methodical. Yeah, that'll do. Methodical killers.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them the Doctor's deadliest threat.
Yeah, well and truly, especially as well with the way the Daleks can certainly make the presence known. And from the examples that you've listed with Bad Wolf and Parting the Ways, where they also had a little bit of a presence in the long game with hijacking the Jagrafest and like that whole scheme. And maybe like not too heavy, but have like little subtle hints that like in an early adventure that someone else may be behind it, but the Doctor doesn't have enough time to, stick around and find out. Yeah, I feel like that would be a good way to reintroduce a redesigned bearing to the Daleks.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be. But thank you for answering that question. Obviously, it it will be probably a while until you'll get your marks back. But I'll be sure to let you know if you were successful with the audience. But before we go, I've got a couple of audience questions that have been asked. If I can get up the Twitter sphere. Okay, so from Joshua Carpenter, you you've become known for a lot of different roles and activities within the fandom, and even in official slash professional capacities. Is there anything you wish you could do slash try? And oh yeah, any ideas that never panned out, or just a new horizon you want to explore?
I've always wanted to be good at art. I'm a massive admirer of fan art and all the like uh posters that people do, like all the Photoshop works or just drawing. I mean, I'm not very artistically endeavoring. I would love to be able to just get better at Photoshop and be able to just put some art together. That's something I want to do because that is a sphere that I massively, massively love. And just seeing so many talented people, uh, it's just insane. There are so many cool artists who have also gone on to work for Big Finish, and I'm so proud of them. Uh, but I just wish I was better at Photoshop, and I'm always trying to learn new things with it. One day I might be good enough to put together some Doctor Who fan art, but until then, I'll just keep trying. But yeah, that's the foray I'd love to go into, and you never know what could happen. One day I might actually figure out how to get good at it.
Well, those that are interested, maybe one day Don might end up doing some Big Finish cover art. You never know.
Chance would be a fine thing. Um, oh
But
dear.
yeah, let's move on to the next question from Time Rotor on Twitter. Is there any iconic role outside of the Doctor Who universe that you would like to take on, such as Sherlock Holmes or James Bond?
Iconic role. Oh my goodness. I mean, James Bond. Nah. My body's not up to the stunts. Um, Sherlock Holmes. Nah. I'm not smart enough to even read the scripts. I would say now there is an iconic role I have in mind, but it's more of a voice acting thing, and it's incredibly geeky of me. But I would love to be Shadow the Hedgehog. Um,
Oh yes.
yeah, I mean, I love Shadow, and the thing is, that character has resonated with me a lot, specifically when he was played by Jason Griffith. So he had this dark tone to him that was slightly breathy, but I just feel like that Shadow is such an effortlessly cool character, and he's edgy as hell.
Oh
But
yeah.
I love the bits, and I would love to be given the opportunity to voice him because, my God, it would be so much fun just to be let out the inner emo, man. He's one of my favorite characters in video game history, and yeah, alongside Sonic, of course. But Shadow, man, Shadow's just cool. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Shadow is such a cool character, and as a Sonic fan myself, yeah,
Maria.
he's my favorite.
Yeah, he's great.
So the final question that we've got time for today is from Sarah Glover on YouTube, and Sarah's asked, "What's the favorite? Well, what's your favorite project that you've been involved in?"
God. Oh wow, that's a good question. I've been in a lot of good projects, but I mean, the obvious answer is DW2012. Playing the Doctor. It's the dream come true. That is probably my work on that is something that I am going to be very proud of for a very long time. So 100% Purple Doctor has to be.
No, fair play. I mean, I can completely understand why. Maybe to narrow it down, out of all the episodes that are out, do you have a
Hmm.
favorite one?
I mean, How Time Flies is way up there. I mean, they're all good. They're all good. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, How Time Flies has special meaning to me because I wrote I wrote it with Luke, so it's got my personal touch in there. Um, Also the minisodes as well. I am proud of uh the Madman with the Broken Box. Very, very happy with that one, and I'm very, very proud of how that came out. Also, the most hated man on earth is probably overall my favorite episode so far because of just facing the trickster, man.
Yeah,
That's
really good
just
villain.
unbelievably cool, and the scale of it. Oh, it's my favorite. Like, yeah, I'd say that's my favorite episode.
That is completely fair as
Meg,
well.
yeah, Meg did a fantastic job on writing it, and obviously Luke did a bit of the editing on the script, and it's turned out into something really quite special, I think.
Yeah, like having such a iconic villain as the Trickster, especially from the Sarah Jane Adventures, and some of the episodes that he's involved in there were really, really dark and emotional. And I feel like, yeah, a villain like the Trickster, there's always something you could write with the Trickster.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's his potential is gigantic.
Yeah,
So if Russell decides to bring him back for anything, I think there's a lot that could be done with him.
yeah, well and truly. But it's time to say our farewell. So, Dom, thank you so much for coming on today. It really does mean a lot, and it's been lovely speaking to you with about various things. You've been involved in a lot, and it's been wonderful hearing about your beginnings as a fan. Watching the Trial of the Time Lord for it being your first experience is certainly a unique one, but it's been lovely hearing about it. And obviously, you've gone on to do a lot of things, and it has been really interesting to hear about that. So, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for answering the debate question. And, audience, please be nice to Dom, when marking him. And hey, Dom, you never know. You could have a £50 Amazon voucher heading your way, and you could get some fresh new Doctor Who merch. Who knows?
We'll see what happens. I take nothing for granted, so we'll see what happens. But thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been so fun to be here and chat with you. And yeah, honestly, and thanks to everybody who's listening, so watching this as well. It's just yeah, it's always a pleasure to do things like this. So thanks for having me on.
No, well and truly, it has been an amazing experience. And hey, you never know, season 2 might have you back on. Who knows?
Always game, my friend. Always game.
But yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for those at home who've been listening and watching, as Dom said. And if you have enjoyed, click that like button, subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you all next time. Thank you very much again. And goodbye for now.